So we are now marching forward, and we're full of the expectancy of life always ascending, life always advancing, life always moving upward and onward. And our work is cut out for us to keep that in mind. We're going to need to be very focused on that. Because it really does take focus. It takes mindfulness. It takes us paying attention to where we are in any given moment of the day. Because remember, everything is accomplished in a moment. A moment. Not tomorrow, not this afternoon, but in a moment. A present moment, here and now. So what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling has a terrific impact on all of life. And we may think of ourselves as very insignificant in the great milieu of things, but we are far from insignificant. Only the ego thinks that anyway. The truth of ourselves, the essence of ourselves, never thinks that. The truth of ourselves and the essence of ourselves is always intact. It's always whole and complete and intact. And it always knows sooner or later she'll get there. He'll get there. And it's not too concerned about each individualized expression of itself. You have the freedom, it has been given to you, to direct your life as you will, to think the thoughts that you will, to feel the feelings that you will, to do the things that you will do. And your decisions around that makes all the difference. Your choices in all of that makes all the difference in your life and mine. But the human mind is inclined to be very influenced by the outer world and becomes a great influencer in our own lives. The human mind, through its thinking, can send us fast asleep to what is whole and wholesome and true. It can cast us into fear. It can cast us into doubt. It can turn us into Imagineers, imagining all kinds of stuff on the negative side of life. It's a human mind. That's what it does. So we cannot allow the egoic mind to stop us and block us, especially during these times now. Understand the ego its tendency is to be afraid. The ego's tendency is to be fearful. And of course, when you're fearful, you're not exactly in your right mind, are you? You can't make really intelligent decisions and so on. You're caught up in an emotion. And it's a scary way to live, according to our emotions. So at some stage in your life and mine, we have to come to the point where we know I must be in control of my thoughts. I must be in control of my feelings if I'm ever going to get this life on planet Earth right. I cannot allow my thoughts and feelings to run away with me, to play havoc with me. So what do? We cast the burden upon the Christ-conscious awareness within us, so that we can go free. Go free of them. Florence Scovel Shinn often would say, I cast this burden upon the Christ within and I go free. You can't handle it, I can't handle it. Emotions running all over the place, thoughts running all over the place. You pause, and the quickest way to get back on center is to breathe consciously. I'm just going to breathe now. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. That's a rhythmic thing. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. When I do that enough, I might be able to say, I'm going to breathe in love now. I'm breathing in love now. And I'm breathing it out. Or whatever would seem to be the appropriate feeling. Breathing in peace. Breathing out peace. That's a natural flow. Your body comes into the rhythm of it. Very simple thing. But how many of us will do that when we get distraught and upset and fed up and annoyed with somebody? When we're not getting our way. We picked that up as a child. We never liked not getting our way as a child. We still don't. However, now we have the tools to handle that. So it's not going to go my way. Okay, so what? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Simple. But do you know what happens as we grow long on the tooth? We get attached to our responses. We get attached to our ways of thinking and feeling and doing and being. And it's very hard for us to detach ourselves from it. When we get into a self-righteous mode, you can see the hackles rising in people. But, now every but you and I use kicks us up in the rumpus. When you're going that direction, stop the buts and say and. I'm really, really offended in this situation. And I choose to let go of the offense. Such a more powerful response to, I'm really offended, but I'm going to take care of what's offending me. I'm not going to put up with it. It's a whole different response there. Oh, this thing called life, don't think for 1 minute that it's easy. It's not easy, it's not easy, it's not easy. I'll say it again and again, it's not easy. But not easy doesn't mean it can't be done, and done well. Just because something's not easy doesn't mean you're not going to do it or can't do it. If everything were easy, well, I can't even imagine that. You and I would never dig deep enough to find the true inner wealth and meaning of who and what we are. Every spiritual book you'll read, in one way or another, they'll tell us, if you're really interested in being a spiritual being on this planet, a conscious spiritual being, if you're really, really interested in growing in wisdom and grace, stop being offended. And human beings are very easily offended because of this thing called ego, because of the frightened, scared ego in us. Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you. Alone, the only thing worth pondering is God. Patience. Grow patience, it gains all good things. And the one who knows the inner being will not be disturbed and not be frightened, ever. I've just interpreted St. Teresa's of Avila, her words. Let nothing disturb thee, nothing affright thee. All things are passing. Alone God suffices. God never changes. Patience gains all things. So the main line in that particular piece is, alone God is sufficient. Alone God suffices. And if we would work on that in our own individual lives, our lives would be so much brighter and lighter and healthier and happier. And we would be serving the world very well. But we let our emotions get in the way of most things. So once you move out of thinking into emotion, you've lost your ability to reason logically, because it's a feeling that's taken over. Well, if I feel this way, it must be so. You can learn, and I can learn, to stop instantly a negative feeling like that. Instantly. The question is, do we want to? Because we're so addicted to our feelings, negative or otherwise. And feeling negatively makes us feel that we've been wrongly done by, indignant. And feeling that way, we want some kind of a comeuppance to happen. Now, none of this may be a conscious thing at all. We're easily disturbed, easily offended, easily moved into judgment, easily ready to exact payment for the wrongdoing that is done by us. And yet, the whole understanding and thinking is, forgive them, for they know not what they do, as Jesus said. Forgive them. They don't know. They haven't a clue. If they had a clue, they wouldn't dare feel that way, or think that way, or desire revenge. And why is that? It's always going to come back to the same thing. There's only one. God is all there is only one. So if that is true, in every individual, somehow or some other, there's the godliness that is their truth. And would I want to wreak vengeance on the godliness in anything or anyone? Not if I was in my sound mind, I wouldn't. Not if I understood the message of the masters. Not if I was open and receptive to the wisdom of the great ones who managed to get through that discipline of whatever it is, patience, whatever it is. Now, each one of us in this room has an Achilles heel, a weak spot. And we have the things that trigger us. So you and I need to discover what triggers us so that we can amend it. We really need to sit with ourselves and listen to ourselves and find out what causes us to blow up. What causes us to self-doubt? What causes us to think of ourselves as any less than anybody else? See, the thing is, you have nothing and no one to compare yourself with. You can't compare yourself with anybody else. For there are no two people alike. Every single one of us is an individualized, original expression of our source. Your life and what goes on in it is in your hands and no one else's. Stop saying he made me, she made me feel or whatever. No, he, she didn't. They don't have that power over you unless you hand it over to them. And we only do that so that we can have someone to blame. We need some devil to blame. The devil made me do it. We don't like taking full responsibility for ourselves. And you see, that's what it is to be a sovereign being. To be a sovereign being means you're sovereign. Nobody has any power over you. None whatsoever. No one has power over me except myself. How are you doing with yourself? It's a rhetorical question. Can you trust yourself to be your own best friend? Because you are your own best friend or your own worst enemy, and all the shades in between. So I ask us all today, how are we doing with ourselves? Do we feel strong in the support we are to ourselves? What are the things that chip away at our sense of ourself? What are those things? We all have things that chip away. It's a good thing to find out what they are so you can handle them. What throws you into a tiz? What gets on your last nerve? What causes you to blow it every time? What is that? And very often it has to do with our expectations. Our expectations of each other and the world. And really the only one we should have expectations of is ourselves. We can live in the expectancy of good, being our experience, but we can only have expectations of ourselves. I am the only one I can expect anything of. I'm a sovereign being, created a sovereign being, have the ability to be a sovereign being. But once I give my sovereignty away to this and that and the other, whatever it is, the weather, the job, the in-laws, the outlaws, I'm all the time depreciating myself when I do that. I'm going to challenge us all to give ourselves a day of appreciation, self-appreciation. And in that day, nothing can interfere with that. No one can stop that. I am in charge of my life. No one else is. It may seem so, especially with people who are working in jobs they cannot stand, working in jobs they hate. Too many of us are doing that. If you truly believed that the perfect job is out there for you, and you don't have to live like this anymore, and you opened yourself up to that kind of guidance, you'd get another job. Life is simple and straightforward. What you think you are, that's what you are. What you believe you are, that's what you are. What you feel you are, that's what you are. But thankfully, that can change in an instant by changing your belief, changing your feeling about yourself and changing your thinking about yourself. You know what they say? In the program, change your stinking thinking. Change your thinking and you'll change your whole world. Thought is power. Thought is creative power. Don't underestimate the power of your thought, especially your negative thought. Don't underestimate it. Think it, think it, think it, feel it, feel it, feel it, think it, think it, think it, feel it, feel it, feel it, and it will be in your experience. So I would say the first place to be sovereign is in your mind, in your thinking. And you know what? As soon as you make up your mind to think affirmatively of yourself, all the negatives will crawl out of the woodwork and say, oh, let's see if she can stick to that one. And you'll get every opportunity to work on yourself. No, I've made up my mind. I will not let anything outside of myself cause me to feel this, that, or the other. Let them think what they like, let them say what they like, but I am knowing for me that I am the individualized expression of Spirit itself, chosen to be its own expression in this world, as itself. So play a game with yourself and say, today I'm going to be the perfect individualized expression of Spirit. Challenge yourself. See how that works out in the way you're going to be thinking that day, feeling that day, and being that day. Now, the first days, there'll be a lot of, X's against this, that, and the other. But as you keep doing it, you'll have fewer and fewer lapses into thinking less of yourself. And if you keep up the practice, the day will come when you can handle any negative that comes at you. I'm not saying you won't experience a negative, you will, but you can handle it. Does any of this make sense? Yeah. Good, good. Because these are the ways that you and I can be happier and healthier and be more helpful on this plane. We can take classes up the gazoo. We can read books by the dozens. We can listen to talks and more talks. But what we're listening to in ourselves is what matters. And I'm not saying that the talks and the books and the classes are not a great help, they are. But unless, out of all of that, something is being assimilated into you, you'll be in class forever. Classes are a step up. They help us. to move ahead. So I'm going to know that we're going to get very excited. We're in, as the Christian churches would call it, the holy season of Lent. Now, there was a time when we used to think that Lent was all about depriving ourselves and giving up things and so on. Well, we know better now. Lent is only an opportunity to live more consciously. Lent is an opportunity to use what we have been given, our God-given sense, to be happier, to be healthier, to be kinder, to be wiser, to be more helpful. It's nothing to do with sacrifice. To be the best of ourselves is not a sacrifice, is it? Why would we think it is? So a little bit kinder every day, a little bit more thoughtful every day, a little bit more caring every day, a little bit more awake every day will make all the difference. All the difference. Growing up in Ireland, Lent, we were all encouraged to give up sweets, as we call candy, sweets. And we did, as best we could. But once St. Patrick's Day came, we had a reprieve. The Irish had it going for them. We had a reprieve on St. Patrick's Day. And we gorged ourselves with candies and everything else, doing away with, of course, the whole idea of going without. We went without it for a while, only to gorge ourselves on St. Patrick's Day, sicken ourselves on candy and so on. We're funny people, aren't we? I do believe in having a reward to look forward to. It helps. It's a good incentive. So you decide what Lent is going to be. I mean, for us now in our teaching, Lent for us is not giving up something bad, but being a little bit more awake and alert and causing a little more good. That's the way we see it. An opportunity to hone our skills on being consciously connected to everything and everyone. So I'll leave it to yourselves to decide what this Lent is going to be. I love having seasons because seasons call us to mindfulness and they call us to push ourselves forward. So you decide what Lent is going to be for you. Living energetically now. Truth. Just living the truth. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time together. It goes quickly. And I'm knowing that each one of us has received something here today, struck a chord with us. And I'm knowing that we're going to go out through those doors now, have a lovely lunch, and pour blessings all over, wherever we are. And keeping the highest good in mind for people challenged everywhere. Am I right? Yes. Good. It's hard to tell when everybody's wearing masks and nobody's moving, and I'd say, well, someone's awake. It's always a joy to be with you. So at this moment now, we're going to have a blessing and be grateful. Be grateful. And thank you for all the love you put into the soft toys for the youngsters who are going to receive them. And the youngsters who receive these particular ones are youngsters who are in between in life. So they're youngsters who have been fostered and so on And so we have a charitable group that work with these youngsters, and they make sure that every youngster gets their own big bag with personal things in it and a cuddly toy. And they take those from household to household, wherever they are. They take that bag. That's theirs. They want them to have something of their own. And it's a very successful program. So, think of somebody you want to know is doing better than they have been doing, somebody that you would personally pray for. Just pick one person and keep that person in mind as well as these other intentions as we pray our prayer. I know divine love enfolds me. Divine light leads me. Divine life lives in me. Divine wisdom inspires me. Divine compassion expresses through me. And divine power protects me. All that I am is Spirit's life and expression. It is good and very good. With deep joy and generosity filling me, I go forward now in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for all. And we can read the rest together. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health and wellness, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, and deep gratitude I know for all life. There's only God, there's only God, there is only God by means of each one of you. Isn't that awesome? There was a time I used to think, how could God choose to be God's self in so many silly people when I was small? Now I know I'm one of the silly people. And now we take our offering between our blessing hands and we say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And so it is. And so it really is. Does anybody have a question? Thank you. A comment? We've been struck silent, have we? No question. I don't believe you don't have any questions. I really don't, but that's okay. You're a choice.
With the horrific circumstance in Ukraine, I think I need a reminder that things that in this belief system we believe everything happens for a reason, because it's very hard to take things like that happening in this world.
The Ukraine situation is very hard to take, and there has to be a reason for it all. Well, yes, there is. Nobody ever said that planet Earth was a cozy, comfortable planet. Nobody ever said that planet Earth would be free of all kinds of nonsense. It's never stated that way. Remember, in my Father's house there are many mansions, many dimensions, many dimensions. This is three-dimensional planet Earth. We're at the stage of less than kindergartners, as far as evolution is concerned. I'll remind us again that Teilhard de Chardin said that as far as mankind is concerned, he has only put his foot on the first rung of the ladder of civilization. I comfort myself remembering that, because then I say, well, I guess we're not doing too badly, but we could do better. Now, having said that, not all of us are at the same level of awareness in any dimension. Some of us are much nearer the center core of things in our awareness, and some of us are so far out, we hardly know we're in a circle. And then there's all the shades in between, because consciousness is consciousness, and it's either going up or coming down, it's either coming in or going out, and it changes all the time. I stopped conundring myself a long time ago with regard to, trying to figure this one out. How so many of us could be so bad, and so many of us can be so good, and the difference in just, it is what it is. And the thing about it is, nothing is permanent, and nothing is set in cement. So the boldest of the bold and the baddest of the baddest can turn into, the most beauteous peace pilgrim you could imagine. Just like that. There's no understanding it, because as I learned when I was in the first grade in school, we cannot fully understand the truths revealed by God because our human minds are limited, and therefore cannot fully understand the infinite God. So you and I are trying to make sense of all of this along the lines of human logic. I think it's great we're doing so well, considering. I think we're ready for a real big breakthrough. That's what I think myself. I think that when we're on the cusp of something, and I believe we're on the cusp of something, there's terrible turbulence when you're cusping. But once you get through it, it's like day and night, It's any woman that has given birth to a child will tell you the difference between going through the cusp of it and the result of that as she holds her child in her arms. It's night and day. All the pain is forgotten, etc., etc., etc. I think that really what it boils down to is, do you trust that life is on your side or don't you? Do you trust that somehow or another there is some good reason for it all, unbeknownst to most of us, but there's an inner knower in us that knows it will all turn out for the best. That's cold comfort when you're in the middle of it, isn't it? It's cold comfort. But trust is the beginning, the middle, and the end of it all. Do you trust the process of your life? And remember, there's no such thing as a God who's going to create us to excel in every good which way. Put us in a place that's more like a war zone with all kinds of traps along the way so that we have to run the gamut. That's human thinking. And this is three-dimensional planet Earth. In my Father's house there are many mansions, many dimensions, countless dimensions. So I think regularly that considering we're only 3 steps up, we're doing pretty darn well. It's not enough, but we're doing pretty darn well. But we can do better. And I know it's a conundrum, and I know all those questions drive us crazy. I stopped asking myself those questions a long time ago because they were only upsetting me and annoying me and squishing my energy. I always say, I don't know. I don't know, but I know deep down within me that good comes out of it all. Something good gets birthed out of it all. And you just think about the whole process of birthing babies. It's horrific in one way. I can remember one of our office people who used to work here, and she was very heavily pregnant at this stage, and the IT guy went and asked her something, and I just happened to be passing by at the time, and I heard her say, "Do you think for 1 minute that I care? Give a penny about it, because in 3 days, a 9-pound baby is going to try and emerge through this size of an opening. So wait till I birth the baby and I'll get back to you." And I remember smiling, but it wasn't funny. I mean, the human body is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. Contracts. And then it expands and all the rest of it. Stop trying to mire your brain with questions there's no real good answer to. Just say, I trust, I trust, I trust, I trust. I trust the source of my life. I trust the trajectory of my life. And I know that my life is always growing and expanding. Yeah? So you're ready to get up and get out and get at it? Good. Up you get then. Out there, get a bite to eat, a nice bit of lunch, and be grateful for all the good in your life. Be grateful. And the more upset you get about the state of the world, get more grateful for your own life and what you have. And I'm telling you, you'll feel so much better. And you'll also feel better for the people who are being challenged right now. I just know those people have so much strength and they have so much oomph in them that it'll all work out. So I will see you next time, my dear ones.